views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Everybody, it's time for the Bronx Buzz. As you know, we get together with Bronx reporters and journalists and sometimes photojournalists and talk about some of the things they're writing about. We learn a little bit about them and a lot about what goes into their thought process as they put out the material that helps you understand a lot more about the Bronx. Tonight, it is my good buddy David Cruz from the Norwood News. He is the editor over there. So we'll start with David, and it's nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you for having me.
So, I wanted to count how many times you've been on the show, a number of times already,
I've
right?
lost count at this point.
Yeah, all right. Well, we keep going on and on. But you greeted me in the hallway, and you said that the Norwood News won New York Press Club Awards. We want to give you a chance to shout. Tell us all about it.
Well, the New York Press Club had its first ever category for community coverage. And
it was the first time they ever did that.
They've ever had it.
Well, they ought to do more of it, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm going to tell you a little bit of an interesting twist. It's just purely coincidental. Apparently, we won for community coverages for a story that we wrote about rezoning happening within Bedford Park and its impact on
that was the
residents.
Webster Avenue?
It was near Webster Avenue. It's on. It focused on a group of residents living in one particular neighborhood and how their issue kind of sparked this debate again on whether or not to downzone further parts of Bedford Park. So we won for that one. It was me, Daniela Beasley, Deborah Cruz.
People who had worked on that series.
And Adi Tower, who helped.
I won like a first place award, or just you get awarded certification or something like, wow, you did a great job.
Well, you get like a nice plaque award that.
Yeah, I wasn't specifically talking about the hardware, but that's okay.
But yeah, no, that's what you win, and
That's
there's no first, second, or third. We just ended up winning.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
And were there other awards, or that was the one?
No, we actually separately we won another award, set of awards from the Independent Press Association. We won for best investigative / in-depth reporting.
Mm-hmm. For a particular story or in general?
Well, the thing is, we don't know yet because we get the
Here's an award for I don't know what it's going to be.
We submit three entries, and one of those three will win us the award. But the award show is actually on Thursday, and that's their way of trying to get us to come to the show. One for that, and then we won for best photograph, Adi Tower. And
which photo was that? Adi
that we don't know.
We also don't know. I got to stop asking questions.
And
why am I doing a show?
For best small circulation publication, we don't know.
We don't know, but you're in there.
We're in there, yeah.
Listen, you and I were just talking about the state of community journalism, and the Norwood News, largely due to your efforts, is really holding up its end. We don't have, we used to have a whole network of community papers. We really don't have them anymore. And the paper is no less vital, no less interesting, no less worthwhile than ever. And so you and others deserve tremendous credit. Let's talk about this, which we did on our Bronx Talk program, because David did a series on heroin and really opened my eyes up and opened a lot of people's eyes that this is really a problem in the borough of the Bronx particularly, but really all over. And now we're seeing the stories about opioid, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to me about the efforts the 5-2 is making about heroin. I have a particular point of view about the whole notion of the 52nd and others attacking it, but we'll talk about that guy.
Well, the twist here is that the 52nd precinct is number one in the Bronx when it comes to the number of fatal heroin overdoses throughout the city. And the first one is actually the 19th precinct, which is a very affluent part of New York City. It's in Midtown.
Right.
Meantime, it's stacking up with the 52nd precinct, which is largely a very poor area. I thought the contrast was very interesting. And so part of the reason why there's an increase is because of the use of fentanyl, which is basically what the commanding officer of the precinct called it, heroin on steroids. It's being mixed in with heroin, traditional form of heroin, and it's sort of prolonging the high and really just costing a lot of lives at this point.
You know, I'm always concerned when I hear about or see about criminal justice approaches to solving drug epidemics. In that, listen, you lock people up. There's a movement, a national movement now to go back to similar types of penalties that the Rockefeller drug laws were, and on and on and on. It never gets to the source of the problem and only deals with the symptom of the problem. And that's my frustration with that kind of approach to dealing with an epidemic like this.
Yeah, I mean, from a law enforcement standpoint, the commanding officer was telling a group of folks at the recent community council meeting that right now they have a special narcotics team that has been blanketing parts of the 52nd precinct, and they say that there's going to be arrests down the line.
So are they arresting users or dealers? See,
no,
dealers
they're
is one
arresting
thing.
dealers. That's all
Well,
they're
that's
doing.
good.
Right
I'm
now.
happy
They're
to
not
hear that.
arresting the user. In fact,
and I'm hoping if they do find users that they get them treatment and
Right.
deal with those issues. So you're saying they're getting into the drug trade. If in order for that to be effective, I can appreciate that they're doing it within the 52nd precinct, but this is a much larger question of where they come from.
The NYPD did tell me that every uniformed officer is equipped with Narcan, which obviously is intended to reverse the effects of an overdose. And there's about 35,000 uniformed police officers throughout the city, and so clearly, if you have an overdose, if you are the first on the scene, you apply the Narcan, which is like a nasal spray,
Right.
and then they're up.
This article, which now goes to page 3 of the current edition of the Norwood News, talks about 7 being charged in Norwood for drug crimes. Is this related to that, or is this just simply another
No, this
effort?
investigation happened close to a year ago, July 2016. They just received a whole bunch of tips, and apparently they were operating within their apartment buildings. It was mostly family members who were operating this way, and they got in the crosshairs of the Drug Enforcement Administration.
Mm-hmm. There are a couple of other, and really, David, your work, I mean, it's all David's work, and it's just, really, it's just so good. You're so prolific, and you take it so seriously. It's a credit to you and your attitude toward the Bronx and your craft. You did a nice piece on the 60th anniversary of Bronx Community College, one of the landmark institutions in our borough.
Yeah.
Talk to me a lot about what you discovered about BCC and this first step in people's higher educational lives.
It definitely is a first step, particularly for the foreign-born the immigrant here in the Bronx. A lot of them are super serious about wanting to succeed. A lot of them have really embraced the American dream, which is ironic, more so than I would think Americans too. And so I did speak with a whole bunch of students, both past and present, who told me that they give Bronx Community College a lot of credit for helping them really just take that first step in being successful in their careers. One of the key programs that they have is called the ASAP program, the Accelerated Studies Associate Program.
Right.
And they hope that is, they intend for that to increase graduation rates, because as it stands right now,
BCC and many of the CUNY community colleges have abysmal graduation
correct,
rates. No
exactly.
question.
And so they're hoping that by introducing this program, they can help increase the graduation numbers.
In your dialogue, and maybe it wasn't relevant to a story about celebrating the 60 years, the question of remediation has to come up, because many of the young people coming out of high school are not really ready for college work, and then they get caught up, because then they go to Bronx Community College or other similar institutions, maybe a Hostos, or hard to say where, and they're not qualified, so they have to take remedial courses just to get up to speed. They use their financial aid and they're tapping the bell on remedial courses, which they don't get credit for. And then when they're ready to get started with school, all of a sudden they find themselves in debt, and that without a doubt impacts graduation rates.
Right, and with the ASAP program, it's when I was speaking to the president of the college, they said they pay for everything. Everything they pay for,
Right.
even Metro cards.
That's good. Well, that's a good start. I'm just concerned about, and this really has to go back to the high schools and all that kind of stuff, which leads us right into the next story on the facing page, which is a lack of elite screened high schools, a tough call for Bronx parents. And so I'm going to show you the article in the Norwood News. Of course, you can get it online. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I got a report from it's an independent consultant. He does work for New York City government. He's done work for nonprofits, and he sent me the report essentially detailing that screened high schools, which basically require students to submit their grades, test scores, a portfolio of work, the top schools are not in the Bronx. Meaning that if you want...
There's a groan from your host. I mean, I'm tired of hearing this stuff. Go ahead.
But the thing is, he points out that the standards at screened high schools in the Bronx are very low. So if you are...
Screened high schools would include High School of American Studies, Bronx High School of Science, those schools?
Those are specialized schools. Okay. Right, specialized high schools, different from screened schools where, the specialized high schools really just require you to take the test. The test is the only factor that determines whether or not you
So
can
what defines a screened school?
They require you to just have, it's not just test scores. They look at your English language and math state test scores.
Right.
They want to know how well you did with your attendance in middle school. They want to see your body of work, and they want you to take their own internal test as well.
Right.
And so based on those factors, that's what determines whether or not you get entry. But at the same time, the one critical factor is that location. If you live close to a screened school, you have more priority than, say, a Bronx high school student.
Well,
meaning, go ahead.
No, finish what you were going to say.
Meaning that if you're a Bronx high school student who wants to go to a Manhattan screened school, one of the top schools within the top 50 list,
right.
you're at a low priority than, say, a Manhattan student who wants to go to the same school.
Very interesting. Why is it a tough call for Bronx parents?
Because most parents don't want to put their kids on the train and have them
If
taken
they
out.
can help it.
Exactly.
Yeah, take an hour to get to school. It
and an hour
complicates
back.
their lives.
I spoke to a couple other students too. They said basically that it is a huge hardship for them to sort of keep up with it. In the meantime, then you have all this homework they have to deal with, after school programming. It kind of complicates things from a logistics standpoint.
Dave, we're going to take a short break, and then we'll come back with more. I think we're going to talk a little politics, some local politics, and those kinds of things. And so we'll be right back, won't we? Of course. Don't go away.
From your first sunrise to the sunset of life, we are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Visit socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. And we are there as you start your next chapter. We are with you through life's journey. We are Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. We are there when you get your first job, helping you to save for the future. We are there when you marry your sweetheart, to help secure your new life together. We are there if the unexpected happens, to help you see life from a new perspective. We are there when you start your next chapter, to make sure you get off to a great start. And we are there when you lose your soulmate, to help make sure you will be all right. We are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us and see what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Hey, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. Our guest has been David Cruz, and he stays with us. But we are adding in Mr. Michael Benjamin, who's on the editorial board of the New York Post and the managing editor of the local Bronx Chronicle. Always nice to have my friend Michael on the show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. A little busy, but I'm well.
Great. Sit tight because I'm going to let David introduce this. David wrote a story about Mark Jonai receiving the endorsement from the Bronx Democratic Party. Predictable. Mr. Jonai is running for city council. This is a predictable thing, right, Dave?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was definitely in the pipeline. They were just vetting all the candidates, seeing where they probably just stood in terms of just their popularity, what they could do for the party, and it was pretty clear that Jonai, who obviously is good friends with Senator Jeff Klein, he ended up just he definitely snagged it just simply because it was. He definitely can bring something to the party as opposed to the other candidates.
I mean, there is a spirited campaign against him. Many people saying that some of his values and some of the things that he represents don't represent the values of, what Democrats in the city council have been doing.
But they do stick with his constituents. His constituents are for the most part, social conservatives. They vote Democrat, but they are social conservatives.
No doubt he has tremendous support. Michael Benjamin, your thoughts about this? We're having it now with Assemblyman Jonai wanting to run for city council, and also Reverend Diaz, Senator Diaz, also running for city council. The pay is twice as much. You don't have to drive to Albany. What do you make of this switcheroo? You were an assemblyman. You know how it works. Oh, I think we just lost his video there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead. So what do you think?
Better. Well, one, yes, they lost out on their pay raise. So some may want to seek a pay raise. They're getting a different office going to city council. But to your point about that, Jonai and Diaz may not be in sync with the progressive city council. They're in sync with their constituency, and the constituency is the one that elects them.
This is what David said.
And the Democratic Party should be looking for those candidates who will be good representatives for their community, represent community interests, community values. And it's almost going to be a given that the Democratic Party regulars will support one of their own over people who they consider to be insurgents or strangers to the party.
Listen, we've had this for years, of course.
Yeah. And what's going to work in Jonai's favor as well as Reverend Diaz is that in multi-candidate fields, I think in both of those districts, the 13th and the 18th, you have 5 or 6 candidates.
Right.
And when you have a high name recognition, like an incumbent assembly member or state senator like Diaz and Jonai, they have the edge, I think, when it comes to winning a primary. If it's a one-on-one battle, it might be a different outcome.
Michael, as you know and David knows, I moderate debates in this borough, and so it is definitely my duty to represent all the candidates because we never, of course, favor them on this show or any other show. So there is Marjorie Velasquez, who's a district leader for the 82nd Assembly District. Also has worked with Councilmember Vaca and has received his endorsement.
He supports him as well. Yeah.
Other candidates include John Morano, Victor Ortiz, John Doyle, who has been very active in that community for a very long time, Alex Gomez, Mohammed, I hope I get his name right. I hope I do by the debate time. Mohammed Abu Haikal, is that correct?
I think you're right.
And there is also a Republican running. Can challengers beat incumbents in the Bronx? I mean, it so rarely happens. Michael first,
possible.
And then David.
I mean, the last challenger to win, I believe, was Senator Gustavo Rivera. He defeated Pedro Espada, and because Espada the community had so turned against him because of what he had done as a part of the 2009 coup in the state Senate that he was just bad. Also, Senator Efraim Gonzalez lost in his primary.
That was to Pedro Espada.
Here's the irony, though, with Jonai, is that Jonai, when he ran for the assembly, he ran against Naomi Rivera, and the party endorsed Naomi Rivera.
Oh, that's a very good point.
And now
I wish I could remember all that stuff.
Here goes Jonai, who's now essentially an insider.
Of the team.
Say that again, Michael.
Together. I mean, they work together. I mean, yes, I wouldn't necessarily call them all insiders, but it's about, once you're elected, you're part of the organization. You're working together. I mean, although Senator Rivera has been elected and has been an incumbent for a number of years, he, as I'm told, may not necessarily be in sync with the party organization. I think that explains why he's had challenges recently, and he's beat them both back against with City Councilman Fernando Cabrera running against him.
Right.
Michael Blake is another one who has some problems with the county organization.
But
and
he's even
win
gotten national
election after
prominence
election.
at this point.
Yes,
I want
yes,
to add
and-
in about the 18th, Elvin Garcia, a very popular Bronxite. He and John Doyle have done tremendous jobs at raising cash, almost surprising for challengers. Is this a reasonable challenge to Senator Diaz?
No, raising money is important, and it's good to have good, solid networks both in the district and across the city, maybe across the nation, to help you raise money, raise your profile. But the problems that John Doyle, as popular as he is, and the problem that Elvin Garcia, as articulate as he is, and the other candidates in those districts, is that they're running against incumbents who have high name recognition in a multi-candidate field. And it'll be important to Joe and I and to Diaz to keep all those opponents on the ballot come September.
It becomes an interesting duality where it's like you're running against them, but you know what? I'd like you all to be part of the party.
The numbers work in their favor, and so you're going to wind up with people who will could possibly win the Democratic primary with about 30% of the vote.
David and I were talking during the break before we got you on the air, Michael, so I'm going to start with him on this idea of the President of the United States allegedly asking the director of the FBI to make an investigation that potentially included him go away. Many people, including in the front page of your rival paper, the Daily News, today said, well, maybe it's time to impeach the current president. David was like, never happened. What do you think?
It's only because at this point it is a he said at this point. I mean, Comey did write just a memo. No one else was there to see Trump tell Comey that, can you lay off of, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn.
Right.
It's just going to be his word against the president.
And how ironic, though, that the president fired him immediately right after. And also, this is a standard Trump tactic. If you do something wrong, accuse the other guy. So he accused Comey and said, basically, you'll be lucky if our conversation doesn't come to light,
right.
When in fact, he knew that his conversation, if it came to light, it would be a smoking gun.
There was no one there, though, too. There was no one there.
Understand.
General, Sessions and Pence left the room when they had the conversation.
Michael Benjamin, your thought?
As we write in the Post, the president has been shooting himself in the foot unnecessarily with his. They're not even gas. I think he's actually telling the truth. He was on Lester Holt last Friday, and he admitted that the primary reason for firing FBI Director Comey was because of the Russia investigation. He said that on television to a reporter, and now you have Comey's memo saying that he was asked to cease the investigation into Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. It's just enough to keep the Democrats and Republicans who are interested in this to keep it on the front burner, and it could make the president very much ineffectual as president over the next 3 to 4 years.
David is shaking his head
Right.
yes to agree. Do you think the way it's playing out, unless something else comes to light, is an impeachable situation?
Yes, if there's more evidence. If there's more evidence. Remember, impeachment is only Congress voting, and then you have the Senate actually holding a trial. So an impeachment is basically just charges against you, and then those charges then have to be proved or disproved before the U.S. Senate in a trial.
David shook his head no to me. He doesn't believe the president will be impeached.
Only because the conversation was between Comey and Trump. So unless there's an actual recording, a record of what was actually said.
Right, but I think it's possible other things come up in the future that could lead to that. I mean, there is this constant drumbeat around impeachment.
Well, Chafis is asking for everything and anything related to that conversation.
Michael, let me ask you, this whole business about the president talking to the Russians and allegedly revealing classified information. This is after a campaign where they just simply ripped Hillary Clinton to bits because they said she was irresponsible with emails, and apparently the president, who claims he's within his rights, spilled the beans that could potentially blow up some very important anti-terror work by the State of Israel and others. What are your thoughts?
It's a product of the president being the least prepared person to have become president of the United States in recent memory. These things are going to happen. I mean, he complained about Obama playing golf. This guy's played golf every weekend since he's been president.
Yeah.
He's constantly up in the morning, middle of the night, tweeting and then revealing and contradicting information that his own communication staff has tried to put fires out with, and he's contradicting them and then creating even more fires. He's his worst enemy.
Michael Benjamin, we thank you for joining us, and I know it breaks up your workday, but it's always great to have you because the dialogue is spirited and informational, and we appreciate your time.
But we missed one thing to discuss that was in today's news. Michael Blake and Reverend Diaz and someone Blake's contribution to him, and the fact he got called out by members of the gay community, the gay political community, calling on him to renounce his donation and to ask for it back.
I was not aware of that. Thank you for bringing it up. We're out of time, but we will investigate it and do it next time. David Cruz, thank you. Congratulations on the New York Press Awards for the Norwood News.
Thank you.
Folks, we're going to see you next time. We're going to see you Monday night. We're going to do senior citizens issues on Bronx Talk. And good night.
From your first sunrise to the sunset of life, we are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Visit socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. And we are there as you start your next chapter. We are with you through life's journey. We are Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
We are there, day one, with baby names and a gift that lasts a lifetime. We are there as you grow, protecting you and those you love. We are there when you get your first job, helping you to save for the future. We are there when you marry your sweetheart to help secure your new life together. We are there if the unexpected happens to help you see life from a new perspective. We are there when you start your next chapter to make sure you get off to a great start. And we are there when you lose your soulmate to help make sure you will be all right. We are with you through life's journey. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. Get to know us and see what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
This video produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.